Batman Arkham Asylum is a 2009 video game made by Rocksteady Studios and Eidos Interactive. It was based on DC Comics' Batman Arkham Asylum, a Serious House on Serious Earth comic book written by Grant Morrison. Although outside of the premise, the only shared similarity I managed to find was this line of dialogue.
Filthy degenerate!
Instead, the game's story campaign was written by Paul Dini of the Batman the Animated Series fame, who at the time of the game's publication was also writing the Detective Comics. Unlike the previous Batman games, Arkham Asylum was not based on any previous TV shows or movies, but rather on the comic source material as an Elseworld story. The biggest hook this game had when it was coming out were the returning voice cast of Kevin Conroy as Batman, Mark Hamill as the Joker, and Arlene Sorkin as Harley Quinn. And everyone else were voiced by a bunch of new people. Thanks to Steam's holiday sale, I found a great deal to buy all the Arkham games on a bargain price, and then stream through the first game in just 3 days. That means I'm going to recap and review it now next. But before we begin, I want to bring up that according to my channel analytics, most of my viewers are not subscribers. So if you could be friendly enough to subscribe, that would make this YouTubing that I do much easier, when I know that I have an audience to keep doing these videos for. And now let's move on to the recap. On some random July night, Batman stopped Joker from kidnapping the mayor of Gotham and then personally delivered him back to Arkham Asylum. It was so easy for him that anyone else would have just dropped the Joker off and then gone home, but because he is Batman, he didn't. Instead, Batman decided to play it safe and personally accompany the Joker and guard Frank Bowles deep into the intensive treatment to return the Clown Prince of Crime to his cell. On the long way down, they run into one of the assassins who was hired to kill Batman a decade or so ago, and talk about how Blackgate Penitentiary had such a great big fire that most of the regular inmates had to be moved to Arkham. None of that comes across as too suspicious until Batman has met up with Commissioner Gordon and gotten separated from the Joker. It is then when the Joker breaks free from his restraints and kills the doctors escorting him. Batman has to then run after the Joker through the corridors, while calling his tech support girl Oracle to help him. After restraining Victor Zsasz, who had somehow gotten loose, Batman is contacted by Harley Quinn, who reveals that she and the Joker now run the asylum, with the Warden at their mercy. Oracle also calls Batman back about the Joker having separated Arkham from the security network, and has sent multiple bomb threats to keep people away from the asylum. When Batman is able to catch up with him, the Joker sends what I initially thought was Amygdala to fight Batman, but that thing eventually succumbs to a cardiac arrest, and the Joker retreats to extreme isolation. But even when leaving, the Joker is pal enough to call back to his best friend to let him know that guard Frank Bowles is in his pocket and has taken Commissioner Gordon as a hostage. Batman returns to where he left Commissioner Gordon to find Bowles' flask and starts to track them both down with the alcohol in the air. He gets stalled by Harley Quinn with an elevator malfunction and the unleashed Blackgate inmates being given weapons with, before ultimately discovering guard Frank Bowles left behind poisoned with the Joker venom. This leads his trail to Gordon cold, and then the Riddler calls to bully and waste Batman's time. Batman ignores the Riddler and makes it outside of the intensive treatment, where he gets alerted about the Batmobile being vandalized. Taking care of the vandals, Batman finds Commissioner Gordon's gifted pipe and follows the trail of tobacco left behind to the medical building south of the asylum. In the medical building, Batman has to save the doctors taken as hostages, and of course there has to be one among them to whom getting rescued is not enough.
I need to get back to the mansion. All my research notes are there. We can't risk Joker getting his hands on them.
It's not safe, Doctor. The island's a war zone. You won't stand a chance.
It's my life's work. You really don't have the authority to...
I'll get her there, Batman. You ask me, it's about time for a little payback.
Ultimately, after sending Dr. Young with guard Aaron Cash to Arkham Mansion, Batman resumes following the trail to Gordon to the lower floors of the medical building. There he gets exposed to Scarecrow's magic mushrooms and ends up tripping balls so hard that running around the morgue feels normal. Once the effects of the drugs wear off, Batman finally ends up locating Gordon at Harley's mercy.
You took longer than I thought.
After getting through Harley's people and Harley, Batman and Gordon are brought face to face with Bane, who never recovered from his TN1 overdose in Arkham Origins. Bane, on the other hand, blames his current condition on Dr. Young in calling her a witch. The Joker then pumps Bane full of venom, and Batman has to fight him in the game's first boss fight, which shows that the game's developers had to cut corners in using a certain template with the bosses. After Batman manages to pull all the venom tubes of Bane and take a 5 outside, Bane comes for one more attack, which leads to Batman responding with a hit and run on the Batmobile. With Commissioner Gordon now rescued, Batman sends him back to Gotham to deal with the Joker's bombs, while he himself goes to his remote Batcave to research on Dr. Young. Turns out that Dr. Young had been trying to perfect the TN1 Bane had overdosed on a decade ago into a new Titan steroid, and the Joker wants it. The Joker had even discreetly been funding Dr. Young's research for his own purposes, while posing as the pianist of the White Stripes, and that is why he got himself into Arkham. For his own army of monsters. Armed with this knowledge, Batman follows Dr. Young to her office in the Arkham Mansion. On his way there, he also has to save more guards, including Aaron Cash, and deal with a time bomb so fake that he doesn't even bother to run to defuse it.
In 2 minutes, the room will fill with happy gas. The audience will be in fits of ecstasy, and then die. I'm getting bored already. Maybe I should just press the button and... Only joking. Remember the hostages? They're entering their final 60 seconds of remembering to breathe. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
No gliding.
Just 30 seconds left. I hope all that running about hasn't ruined that exquisite art.
What running? The Joker and Scarecrow probably see Batman's calm nature as too much and make him trip balls again on Scarecrow's magic mushrooms. This is where the mandatory "Batman's parents are dead" reminder comes from, as Batman gets high up to the belfry. Coming down, Batman finds Dr. Young at the mercy of Victor Zsasz. So, Dr. Young comes clean to Batman about what she has done and lets Batman destroy her notes with the Titan formula. But then a booby trap kills Dr. Young and Harley Quinn comes to gloat. She then asserts her dominance by beating the Warden with his own stick, and after leaving, Batman unloads his frustration by trying to blow up the room again, but only ends up finding a secret unmapped room. Then he sees a part of the Warden's stick with blood on it and decides to follow the blood. The trail of blood leads Batman to the penitentiary part of the asylum, where the lost coils are kept along with Poison Ivy and Clayface. There Batman manages to secure the warden in a control room, get his security override to Arkham's security system, and finally manages to put Harley in a corner. Defeated, she tries to tell Batman off, but ends up spilling the beans on where the Joker is at the greenhouse. And the Joker decides to make everything even more interesting by releasing everyone except for Clayface from their cells and run around the premises. Getting through the lost causes and the armed Blackgate inmates, Batman ends up finding the hidden door in the gardens where the Joker has been producing the Titan steroid with trial and error method. He then sends 2 successful test subjects at Batman to cover his escape, and Batman is then forced to ask Poison Ivy's help to create an antidote to the Titan steroid's effects. The information does not come without some coercing, and Poison Ivy gets the final word in telling Batman to get his antidote from Killer Croc's lair in the sewers. The Joker then decides to up the ante once more by giving the Titan steroid to Poison Ivy too, and now it looks like someone left SCP-407 to play on for too long. After getting the confirmed location of Killer Croc's lair from Aaron Cash, Batman hurries back to the intensive treatment building. There, Scarecrow once again makes him trip balls on his magic mushroom so much that you'll believe that the game has begun glitching. Likely due to the urgency brought by the Song of Genesis, Batman is able to muster up the willpower to tell Scarecrow, "Drugs are bad, okay?" Rejection then gives the Scarecrow the want to throw away his mushrooms, but then Killer Croc jumps out and takes all of them to himself. Batman can't help but to think that maybe the next time he sees Scarecrow, he will be much more noble. Reaching the Killer Croc's lair, Batman is told by Oracle that there is no map of the area, so going in might be a suicide mission with no way out. Luckily, Batman's belt has all the needed toys that turn getting the antidote ingredients into a game of Marco Polo and getting out into a game of Crash Bandicoot. Returning to his remote Batcave, Batman starts making as much antidote as he can before the results of SCP-407 reach with their damages to his home away from home. By that point he has enough to stop Poison Ivy from using the Song of Genesis, and after a quick detour to the asylum's pumping station, Batman climbs himself back up to the surface and heads back to the greenhouses. But with Poison Ivy being Poison Ivy, she won't let Batman undo SCP-407's accomplishment, even when the Serpent's hand doesn't want it on the loose. This attitude then leads to the diverging boss fight against her. And you tell me if Pamela sounds too much like darkness here. After neutralizing the Song of Genesis, the Joker then invites Batman to the Visitor Center and gives him a celebrated welcome. Following an explosive entrance, Batman confronts the Joker, who sends more Titan steroid-infected goons at him to defeat.
Nicely done, Bats. You deserve a prize.
The prize of victory is then revealed to be knowing that Gordon never made it back to Gotham, and Batman literally takes a Titan-infected bullet for the Commissioner. With the plot armor Batman still had during 2009, He resists the change, and that makes the Joker so depressed that he elects to shoot himself with the steroid needle too.
I have nothing to live for.
This then causes the Joker to turn into what we saw of him in that one episode of The Batman in 2005, and another copy-pasted boss fight that people still complain to this day. After pulling the Titan Joker back down from the upper floor, Batman punches him in the teeth with the C4 knuckles, and the Asylum takeover is officially over. The story campaign ends with Batman and Commissioner Gordon treating it like another Wednesday, and then Batman moves on to respond to a bank robbery, reporting by the police radio by flying away on the Batjet. Did you know that when this game came out, the developers made an anti-piracy feature to it by making it impossible to glide? For this reason, and because I saw a video of this challenge, I decided to play an old-school Batman run where I wouldn't use Batman's cape for gliding at any point unless it was absolutely necessary. That made my playthrough a little more interesting and entertaining with the extra challenge. Story-wise, Paul Dini managed to write a somewhat decent story that Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill and Arlen Sorkin managed to bring to life. Although there were some lines of dialogue that made me wonder if they were the reason why Harley Quinn got recast with Tara Strong in going forward.
How do you like my new uniform? Pretty hot,
What's the fan, sir?
B-Man. Mr. J doesn't want you following us just yet. It's some piece of work, Frankie. Well, fall for someone like you. Surprise! You know, Bats, I always thought there was a spark between us.
Oops, change of plans, kiddo.
But I tried my best!
Sorry, but there is no prize for second place. I'm afraid you're off the party list.
Conroy and Hamill were at their highest in this game as Batman and the Joker, where they have not been very much as of late. However, there were some line deliveries that made me wonder if Paul Dini should have worked with another writer to get the dialogue refined a little. Gameplay-wise, Arkham Asylum made it very clear that this was indeed the first game of the series. For example, when I reached the first Predator sequence, I took notice that the inverted takedown was an upgrade that you needed to unlock, instead of an automatic move like in the following games. The combat also felt a little incomplete without the cape stun leading to the rapid beatdown, and it was also my own fault for not unlocking the rest of the fighting combos. Also, the pace in which Batman's utility belt gets refilled all made it rather annoying because it forced me to go back to other locations for the Riddler trophies post-game. With presentation, the game was built well-ish, but there were some parts holding me back like the previously mentioned utility belt filling pace. That is why the game doesn't really have a proper replay value unless you already want to go play the game again. This is why after I forced myself to collect all the Riddler trophies and found the Warden's missing with the confession of him being the spirit of Amadeus Arkham, I immediately uninstalled the game so I had room to install Arkham City next. But I don't want to end this video on a bad note, so I'll complement the Scarecrow sections one more time in how they were created. For one, they were obviously created with some grounds to reality by making Batman's hallucinations based on the environment around him. Like with the morgue Batman ends up running around, and the Arkham Mansion where he ends up climbing up the belfry. But the intensive treatment is where they ended up getting strange in where in the reality does the illusion begin, and what route does it take to end up where it does. I would also love to point out that when it comes to this game, the character designs managed to somewhat get the gender equality on balance when it came to the male and female characters. Outside of the ones who had their clothes on, Poison Ivy and the Blackgate inmates had a proper balance where the men were shirtless and the woman only lacked having her pants on. So, the male and female gays were rather professionally acknowledged this early on. It did not last going forward with the following games, but that is a topic to talk about in the future. Now it's time for me to ask you to like the video, comment what you have to say down below, share this video for more people to see, and subscribe to be aware when the next video I have is available. Ding the bell too for a chance to chat with me when I decide to start streaming again, and may your heart be your guiding key.